Okay, from mobility to simplicity, and if you're thinking about leaving, you're not going to want to because this next presentation is excellent. We want to go from mobility to simplicity, or better said, maybe from mobility to the death of complexity. The world of finance may seem daunting to anyone looking to get money to fuel a project, but crowdsourcing has changed everything. Now, if you have a project and you need money, you just ask the cyber crowd if they'll help you out, and the chances are they'll give you money. Well, our next keynote speaker says that crowdsourcing is not only disrupting traditional finance models, but she says it's also democratizing access to capital. And she is out to show us that good ideas transcend borders and accept payments in more than just one currency. Please help me welcome the co-founder of Indiegogo, the oldest and largest global crowdfunding platform, Ms. Danae Ringelmann.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Everybody, how are you doing today? Good? Stretch out. Everybody raise your hands. You've been listening to lots of talks. Get your brain moving. Okay. Well, hopefully you'll learn a little bit of something today, because I'm very excited to be here all the way from San Francisco. We're going to talk about crowdfunding. So most of you guys have known or heard of probably one of the four of these: the robot dragonfly, the Amanda Palmer campaign, which was an artist who raised money from her fans on the internet, the Pebble watch, which was an entrepreneur that raised money to launch his new watch, the Karen Klein bus monitor campaign. This was a woman who was bullied on a bus, and a video of her getting bullied went viral, and so the world showed up wanting to send her on a really nice vacation, and they ended up raising $700,000 from across the world to do that. So these are very large million-dollar campaigns that probably many of us have heard of, and it's these level campaigns that have really catapulted crowdfunding into the vernacular, into the mainstream vernacular. It's kind of made a lot of us aware of it. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I'm going to talk about crowdfunding, how it's this new way to raise money for small businesses, for entrepreneurs, for artists, for charities. And because it's really just about, it's about something very simple. It's about people-powered finance coming together. And it's becoming an incredible alternative source of funds. So that's why most people get drawn to crowdfunding. It's a way when a small business has been rejected by a bank for a bank loan, they'll turn to crowdfunding. It's a way for entrepreneurs to launch products in a smart fashion. It's a way for charities to engage more deeply with their supporter bases across the world than the traditional offline routes. And it's really a way for artists to engage directly with fans. And due to the rise of online social media and the sharing economy and online payments, these trends have kind of driven these irreversible shifts in behavior that has made crowdfunding an actual way to raise money for everybody. It's more accessible, it's more fun. Anybody can use the internet, it's pretty much free. However, I don't really want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about the secret power of crowdfunding that not a lot of people know about. And this is the market validation benefits, the de-risking benefits that come with crowdfunding. And it's for these reasons that crowdfunding is actually becoming a permanent piece of our financial ecosystem, because it's providing this incredible way for ideas to come to life. It's providing actually an incubation platform for all areas, for all industries of the world. So banks to corporations to large organizations are actually going to be relying on crowdfunding very soon. It's already started to happen, actually, as a way to source ideas in a much more meritocratic, community-validated, data-driven way. So where is crowdfunding today? And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit right now. It's pretty much everywhere. This is not new. Indiegogo launched 5 years ago. We now have campaigns in every single country of the world. It's everybody from fashion designers to tech entrepreneurs to makers and tinkerers to game developers to filmmakers, pretty much everybody. In fact, last year on Indiegogo, our first baby was crowdfunded, which is kind of crazy. A young couple could not afford in vitro fertilization, so they turned to the crowd. They turned to Indiegogo, and they raised the $10,000 they needed to actually have a baby. To make this really real, we have causes like the Tesla Museum. Maybe some of you have heard of this. There was a blogger by the name of Matt Inman who really wanted to turn Nikola Tesla's old labs into a museum. So what did he do? He went to the internet. and he went to the fans of Nikola Tesla, and he raised $1.4 million online to refurbish this lab that was going to get destroyed and turn it into a lab. Then there's artists like Protest the Hero, which is a really popular punk band in Canada. They got dropped from their label, and rather than give up on their music careers, which they've been building for many years, they turned to their fans and they raised over $300,000 to continue making music and to go on tour. And then we have entrepreneurs like the Gravity Light. These guys, this guy Patrick up in London, he's a maker. He's a designer. He designs products. He works for a large company where they put out products. But he had this one idea to invent a light that actually creates energy by using gravity resistance. So it's a light that he thinks he could potentially share with people in the developing world as an alternative to kerosene. But he wasn't sure if this had any legs. This idea had any kind of meat to it. So rather than try to pitch VCs, which he was, and he was getting rejected because they all said the same thing. Sounds like a brilliant idea, but I have no idea if there's any market demand for this. Why don't you go prove it first? So he did. He turned to Indiegogo and he turned to crowdfunding, and he actually ended up raising almost $400,000 by pre-offering his lights as a way to actually prove that people wanted this. And he actually funded the launch of his first run of the lights. So let's make it real. I want to introduce you to Sunny. He is also a product designer. He has invented a very elegant activity tracker. And I'll just play the video to give you a more real sense of who he is.
Simple. It's about overcoming complexity. Simple for us means being smarter about everything we do. We wanted to apply that idea to make us healthier. A main component of being healthy is, are you moving enough? So we wanted to ask that very simple question and answer it with a simple product. So we came up with the Shine. The Shine is an activity tracker that's smart, elegant, and really strong. It's carved out of a block of solid metal. If you want to be technical about it, it's carved out of aircraft-grade aluminum by micro laser drills, so we've built it to last. Because it's made of solid metal, transmitting wirelessly is almost impossible. But to keep things simple, we developed a new type of wireless sync technology. All you have to do is place the Shine on your smartphone. The Shine synchronizes with your phone, communicating with the app, which is now available on the iOS App Store. Your sync is complete. No wires, cables, or pairing. Simple, and I think really cool. After studying how people use their activity trackers, we noticed the main use, making sure you reach your daily activity goal. With the Shine, you check your progress by tapping the surface. The LED lights display how close you are to achieving your goal. Answering the question, are you moving enough? It registers your bike pedals, swim strokes, and distance traveled by sensing your movements. And it's the size of a quarter, so it's easy to wear even when wearing almost nothing. It's waterproof, practical, and elegant. In keeping with our philosophy of thoughtful simplicity, we're trying to simplify the process of making stuff. That means we run a tight ship with a small team. And that's why we're starting here at Indiegogo. It's what we call the lean hardware movement, making it better from the beginning, prove that there's demand, and then create. We're also going to open the Shine's API so anyone can make something new, and we're inviting people to create their own apps. It's about making things smarter through simplicity. We put a tremendous amount of time and energy into making the Shine. We're looking to you to prove you'll love it just as much as we hope you will. By funding our project, you're saying that you want it. And it allows us to overcome the complexities of manufacturing and lets us focus on simply making a great, elegant product.
So that's Sunny. Sunny needed money to launch his product. So he turned to Indiegogo, he created a campaign, he reached out to his customer base, and he raised the money ahead of production. He raised almost $900,000 in order to get the money to actually then go and produce the product. So financing has two components. It's getting money and it's mitigating risk. Crowdfunding deals with both. It got him the money to launch, but what it really did is it really gave him the market proof that he needed, that he was producing a product that people actually wanted and was doing it in a smart fashion. So specifically, what crowdfunding did is it reduced his risk. And there's two kinds of risk for any entrepreneur, whether you are a maker, independent maker, or if you're an entrepreneur, someone working in a large corporation that's trying to come up with the next idea. The two kinds of risks are market risk and execution risk. Market risk is the risk that you're making something that no one's going to want. It sounds cool, but no one is actually going to pay you for it. So what does crowdfunding do? It proves if people will pay you for it. Because the way it works is when you have a product and you create a campaign, you offer perks in exchange for people's contributions. And oftentimes, a product or a designer will offer the very thing or product that they're trying to fund and go make as that perk. So with crowdfunding, it reduces or pretty much prevents the risk of overproduction or underproduction. And if there's any makers out in this world, you understand that risk. It's also an incredible way to build awareness. So he reached out to his customer base, and his customer base funded him and then shared him and used the social media tools at their fingertips that was all integrated into the crowdfunding experience to share with their friends and friends. So he actually built his customer base at the same time. He also was able to identify his biggest social influencers. So these are people who weren't just fans of his product, but were in love with his product and really wanted to share it, and so much so that they drove thousands of other people to take a look at the product as well. He knows all that because there's data that tells him who are the people in his network that have actually driven the most referrals and those referrals resulting in the most money. And it also allows him to build a brand as a designer. Which will help him for his next product. When he launches, whether it's another activity tracker or something different, he now has an embedded customer base that are ready and waiting for his next product to come out. It also reduces his execution risks. So in the perks model, he offered everything from a black version of the activity tracker to a silver version, and then he started testing different other accessories that might go along with it. In that process, he learned a lot about pricing, because what he would do is he'd limit the number of perks at one price level. So maybe he'd sell the first 100 activity trackers will go for $150, and the next 100 will go for $175. And as they sold out, he got to test what is people's true willingness to pay. He also was able to test the product features. So he learned by offering silver and black before actually manufacturing them, he learned that people actually far preferred the black version than the silver version. So much so that they're willing to pay $50 more for the black version than the silver version. Again, he hasn't produced one tracker yet, but he has all of this information now because of his crowdfunding campaign. And then he was really able to test his customer segments. He thought a popular accessory was going to be a bracelet, but a lot of his funders were saying you have to offer a necklace. He's like, really? And they were commenting to him, sending him information. So he said, well, let's test it. So he offered a necklace as one of the perks, sold again and again. Totally surprised him. He actually discovered new revenue streams that he never thought was possible. Again, all before he produced one single activity tracker. So what does this mean in the grand scheme for traditional finance? Does this mean the end of capitalism as we know it? The end of gatekeepers? Suddenly we're going to be this distributed world where everyone's funding everything? Kind of, maybe. But it doesn't mean the end of traditional capitalism. It doesn't mean the end of gatekeepers. It actually means a completely more holistic and healthy financial ecosystem, because really what crowdfunding is doing is it's becoming this incubation platform. Now what Sunny did by himself, large corporations can do for themselves, for the many products that you're rolling out every month, week, even days. And this is how it's affecting the industries. Within the banking and the venture world, we see crowdfunding as becoming this way for all products or all businesses to garner the attention of venture capitalists. Remember the gravity light guys that I talked about a couple minutes ago? Before that light, before their crowdfunding campaign, they were calling VCs. No one would call them back because they had no market proof. They did their crowdfunding campaign just to raise $400,000. That's it. Guess who keeps calling them now? And it's their choice who they call back. So crowdfunding is becoming this way for venture and for banks to actually discover the projects and the ideas that the world actually wants. And it's not just the commercial, it's not just the finance, the investment world, it's the government and nonprofit finance world too. So remember the Tesla campaign that I talked about? the Matt Inman blogger who wanted to raise money to refurbish the Tesla campaign, well, he first went to the New York State government and said, hey, you can't destroy this lab. Nikola Tesla, he's like this amazing scientist that's been totally ignored from the history books. We have to preserve his lab. And the government, the New York State government, who is literally going to tear the lab down and sell it off because it needed money, said, well, how do we know that the people actually want this? That's a big risk for us to take with our tax dollars to spend it on a community project that no one might actually want. So they said, look, if you can raise money from the people, we're happy to match it. So that's what he did. He actually raised $1.4 million. All he was going for was $850,000 because the New York State government said, look, if you can raise $850,000, that's enough market proof for us to know that the public actually wants this. And that's what he did. And now we're going to start to see brands and corporations use crowdfunding as well, both from their own product development process, as well as to support and engage more from a cause marketing perspective. For example, we just partnered with Google in Germany, right here. You guys were ahead of the game because this is the first Google partnership here. And what we did is we did a partnership where entrepreneurs and artists had to go through an education program put on by the Entrepreneurship Foundation here in Germany. And once they did that, they got to raise money on Indiegogo via crowdfunding. And based on the performance in crowdfunding, Google actually matched funds to some of the entrepreneurs up to 10,000 euros each. So it was a great way for Google as a corporation that is not in the day-to-day of building new products. Well, they are in the day-to-day of building their own products, but it's a way for them to get access to all the ideas that are percolating out around them in case they stumble upon something that's good. And it's good not just because it sounds good, but it's good because people are actually voting with their dollar and funding it. So this also means a new role for gatekeepers. Doesn't mean they're going away. All it means is that in the old world of traditional finance, gatekeepers, they get a bad rap for that. But investors were people who had to make arbitrary decisions, kind of bet essentially on what ideas they think were going to be good. And they do all their market research, everything they could. But in the end, when they invested, it was pretty much a bet. So the new role of gatekeepers is they aren't betting anymore. They've got crowdfunding providing them all the data that they need as to what projects and what ideas and what businesses deserve to come to life because people, again, are voting with their dollar. So the new role of gatekeepers is they're amplifiers, they're growthers, they're the providers of growth capital. And so this is investors, this is banks and VCs, this is also internal finance organizations that invest in different projects throughout a company. Now their role is really to amplify versus to pick and choose who gets to have a chance at coming to life. What does this also mean? This also means that not just VCs and decision makers are becoming influencers, it means all of us are becoming influencers. So just as Twitter has given all of us a voice, or blogging has given all of us a chance to share our information or our knowledge, crowdfunding is now giving all of us a chance to be our own bank, to have our own portfolio of ideas that we fund and a public track record of everything that we fund. That's where we see it going. And this is pretty empowering because it'll be everybody from a VC, next to a newspaper, next to a blogger, next to my mom, who all have a track record of funding success or failure. And so people will be able to follow others, and essentially this is how the world of funding will work, is that people will follow the people who are making interesting and discovering different projects, and suddenly the people will be financing the people. Just as in the Arab Spring, what was so powerful about the Arab Spring was that Twitter and Facebook really democratized communication, enabled people to talk to each other. That was never possible before. Before they had one line of communication from the government, and it was a one-way direction. They had to just take what the government was telling them. They couldn't talk to each other. Twitter and Facebook changed that. Well, crowdfunding is changing that. Until now, there's been a one-direction source of funds. It's banks and corporations that are saying yes or no. But now with crowdfunding, people are going to talk to each other. They're going to talk to each other through their wallets. $5, $10, 20 euros, 100 pounds at a time. And what's really exciting about crowdfunding is that finally, raising money, it'll finally be efficient, and therefore it'll finally be fair. So historically, if you didn't have a good connection to a bank, if you weren't networking your butt off, or if you lived in a small town in southern Germany and you didn't have access to a big VC in Berlin, no matter how brilliant your idea, it probably wasn't going to happen because you didn't have the access. Well, now crowdfunding, the success factors in crowdfunding are all tied to the brilliance of your idea and the engagement of the world and how much the world actually wants your idea to exist. And it's pretty much free to confirm that, because you can use technology to confirm that, and people voting with their dollar. And so what that means is that everyone will have an equal chance of success. That doesn't mean everybody will be equally successful. There'll be plenty of us who come up with ideas that think they're brilliant, put it on crowdfunding, and no one funds you. And that's okay. That means the world doesn't want it. And we just saved you a lot of time and money wasting on an idea that was never going to see the light of day. So what is required for this to really take hold is that, for the equal opportunity to actually arise, is that there needs to be equal opportunity platforms to enable that. What that means is that platforms need to be open and inclusive. They can't be another gatekeeper. If they're another gatekeeper, they're the same thing that we just left, and that's actually not making anything more efficient. That's adding more friction into the system. It also means that platforms need to be global. Our customers now are not our neighbors. They're not just the people in our town. Our customers for our businesses and our ideas, they're global. You know, we have, I think, 2/3 of all campaigns on Indiegogo raise money from more than one country. So platforms need to enable funders and ideas to connect cross-border. They also need to be data-driven and algorithmic. So what this means is if we really want to change the way the world funds itself, there needs to be lots and lots of ideas. And if we have manual ways for people to discover projects that would work with their interests, that's just not going to scale well. So you need data and you need algorithms to help drive discovery, to help drive connection, to help drive matching across the world. And there needs to be influencer channels need to be enabled. Platforms need to allow people to start creating their track records of funding so that people can start following them and seeing what they're putting their money in. And it needs to be compatible with the traditional finance system. So just like I was saying that the government is now using crowdfunding as a way to test ideas to put public financing into, and VCs and banks need to look at crowdfunding or use crowdfunding to figure out which businesses they want to grow and invest more in, or invest more in. There needs to be a system that they can talk to each other. So that's why I think I'm up here, and clearly I'm biased. But this is how we've been building Indiegogo since day one. We launched 5 years ago in 2008 with one mission, that was to democratize fundraising and to empower absolutely everybody to fund what matters to them. And in so doing, we've helped build this incubation platform and this ecosystem to actually start to take hold. Indiegogo today is still the only open and inclusive platform, so we don't insert our own bias and decide who has the right to raise money. Everybody has an equal chance, but we're also data-driven and algorithm-driven. So we have something called the GOGO factor, which is similar to our Google PageRank, where the more active a campaign, the more responsive the community, the higher the campaign rises in relevancy and more easily discoverable by other people who would also be interested in that same campaign. We're also global. We've been global since day one, and we actually we've been in Germany for almost 5 years as well, and we are dispersing millions of dollars every single week to 200 countries around the world. We're in 4 currencies, the euro, the UK sterling, the Canadian dollar, and the US dollar, and we're in German and French. And we're just launching local payments. So here you'll be able to fund via bank transfer and GiroPay, which doesn't exist on any other platforms yet. We also have enabled influencer channels. So any organization, whether it's Google, to a nonprofit, to my mom, can create their own channel on Indiegogo called Partner Pages, where they can actually endorse the campaigns that they think are interesting and they'd like to follow. And we're compatible with traditional finance systems that, we're working every day with corporations that want to start to use crowdfunding as a way to test their own market ideas. So We were born in 2008, but we're not the only ones. Since our start, we actually started before the word crowdfunding even existed. Now there's hundreds of platforms out there. You might have heard of Global Giving, which is more focused on the kind of nonprofit space. You have Kickstarter, which is only focused on arts projects in America and the UK. You have Rocket Hub, which is a little more global as well. So there's lots of platforms that have started to emerge. But with all of this, which maybe some of you might be interested in, is that what's crowdfunding has laid the groundwork for, or what I would call perks-based crowdfunding, which is what Indiegogo has been to date, where you create a campaign, you offer perks in exchange for contributions. The only perk you're not allowed to offer is profit or any kind of equity investment. Well, now that's changed too. So because of the success, because of all the businesses and entrepreneurs that have used perks-based crowdfunding in America to raise money, President Obama took notice, and we worked with the White House to help pass the Jobs Act, which is the bill to legalize equity crowdfunding. It hasn't been finalized, but it's a little ironic that it's happening now because other places in the world, including Germany, are far ahead of us. Equity crowdfunding is already legal here. The problem with equity crowdfunding right now, as we stand, is that every country's regulations are different. And if the power of crowdfunding is enabling global transactions, people to fund things across borders, with inconsistent regulations here in Europe, it's really putting a damper on equity crowdfunding to take hold. So what's exciting in this year and next year is that in America, across the world, here, I think equity crowdfunding is going to really start to take shape, and hopefully the governments and the companies can come together to create regulatory environments to actually make it work, so that when people use crowdfunding, they can not just offer perks, but they can also offer profit. So I'm going to close today. What does the future hold? I think it's incredibly exciting. Crowdfunding, again, is making the world of finance far more efficient and fair. And what's really doing is it's empowering anybody and everybody to fund what matters to you. So if you're not familiar with crowdfunding, I encourage you to go home, go fund something, go create a campaign for something. You'll be hooked, I promise. Happy to take questions. Thanks. Do we have time?
Yeah, we've got time. We've got about 3 minutes, I was told. So is there a question from the audience? We've got one right here. Can we get a microphone to this gentleman?
Thank you. Very nice presentation. What about intellectual property? Because you have this guy that has a great idea, but no money, and then he exposes his idea to the world that maybe somebody has, money and can launch this idea right away and steal his idea. You might say he has to register for a patent, but registering for a patent takes time, and you want to be on the market as quickly as possible, and it takes money. So you're back to your problem with getting money. So do you have any advices? Or?
So in crowdfunding, you don't necessarily put your blueprint of your entire company up there. And what I typically say when entrepreneurs ask that is, look, ideas are a dime a dozen. You can't patent an idea. You can patent the execution of an idea, but you can't actually patent the idea itself. If you want to develop flying dolphin robots, I'm just making that up, because you think it's the next brilliant thing. Raise money to create flying robot, flying, what did I say, dolphin robots, et cetera. Don't necessarily talk about exactly how you're building it, all that stuff, because that's your IP. But in crowdfunding, you definitely want to sell the why, not the what. People fund, they don't fund what you do, they fund why you do it. Just like in business, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that's why we have things called brands, because the brand is all about the why. Why does this company exist? Why does this product exist? So that's the extent of crowdfunding. That's what you want to put in your pitch. You don't need to go into the fact that you're using this weird technology, and this is exactly how you're going to build it all together. And if you're still scared if someone is stealing your idea, what you're really saying is you're scared that someone is going to take your idea, execute it exactly how you were planning, and do it faster than you. And if that's the case, then you're not the right person to be doing that idea. I mean, that is an entrepreneur through and through, is someone who has to have confidence that they're doing something the world wants, and they're ready, and they're the best person to go do it. Whether they're an entrepreneur that works on their own, or an entrepreneur that works in a large corporation. So
Okay,
that's my advice.
I know there's some more questions, but we're out of time here.
Sorry.
Sorry about that, but thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Great presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Thank you.